Shalom Aleichem. My name is Yeshua Shanison, and it's a privilege and an honor to be here learning together. It's a privilege and honor also to be working here with my esteemed friend Rav Shmuel Haber, and Bezrat Hashem together we'll be able to learn and start together. We have the privilege also to start Guemara Brachot together, the beginning of Torah Shebaal Peh. And it's really a tremendous masachet, and it's a big, for me, tremendous opportunity to be able to learn together. Unfortunately, I lose out a little bit because it says in the Gemara that that a teacher learns the most from his students. So, really, the best way for a person to learn is really from teaching and from the interaction with the students, what the students have to teach, what the student has to say, the questions they have to ask, and the comprehension and the contemplation of how to teach students is the best way of learning. So unfortunately, I'll lose out myself personally, but hopefully still for you, be able to bring out some of the points of the Gemara and the beauty of the Gemara, and we can hopefully gain a lot from it together. So, just as a little introduction, when we normally think of the Torah, most people think of the 5 books of Moses, Chumash, or maybe the Tanakh, but the truth is that the Torah is actually much wider and much greater than that and broader. Also, there's really 2 aspects of the Torah: the Torah Shebechsav, which is what we just described, the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, and the books of the Nevi'im and the Kesuvim, which is compiled altogether 24 books. And on top of that, there's also what's called the Torah Shebaal Peh, which is the oral tradition. And our tradition is that Moshe Rabbeinu received not only the rules that we see as we see it in the Chumash and the 5 books of Moses, all the basic rules that we see, but he also received all of the detailed aspects of those laws, how they come out with more specific aspects of each one of those laws as is written in the Chumash. So that is really where the oral Torah comes in. The Torah Shebaal Peh comes and takes what it says in the Chumash and explains it and brings out more of the details that aren't spoken out in the Chumash. And that is a tradition that came from Har Sinai as well, from the giving of the Torah, but isn't written explicitly. It was only transmitted orally. From Moshe Rabbeinu transmitted it to Yeshua, from Yeshua to Zikanim, from Zikanim, Anshe Knesset Gedolah, down further and further, and it was always an oral tradition, and it was even forbidden to write it down. But until it came to a certain point in history, when it was decided that if it wasn't written down, it wasn't compiled and written down, then it would have been lost. And even though really, al-pi halacha was not allowed to be written down, it was the oral tradition, and that's the way it was supposed to stay. It was supposed to be oral. Still, we've had to write it down for the sake of generation, and that's what we have today. That's the Mishnayos, and that's the Gemara. That's the oral tradition. It's written now today, but we still call it the oral tradition because that's really where it comes from, the oral tradition. And it's a very deep and detailed explanation of the laws as we see it in the Chumash. That the laws as we see it in the Chumash, really, we can't... A lot of times what comes out from the study of the oral tradition is that what we see in the Chumash, the laws that seem very clear and very simple as they're written in the Chumash, really contain much more than they seem to, and sometimes even contain things opposite than what we would have thought, or totally left or right from where we would have expected it to be. So the oral tradition, it really builds and forms the way we live our life as Jews today, and the halakha and the day-to-day life that we live. And without that oral tradition, we really can't understand what the Chumash and what the Torah itself is saying. That really is the groundwork for how to understand really what the Torah is telling us. And that is the Torah, that the day-to-day life Torah that we live today. And really, that is what separates the Jewish people from everybody else. If you look at the whole world, the number 1 selling book in the whole world, everybody would tell you, is actually the Bible. It's the number 1 known fact that there are millions and millions of Bibles sold over, and different religions, they all know the Bible as we have it, and they appreciate it, or they even follow certain, whatever it is, they have appreciation of it. But what separates the Jewish people from everybody else is the oral tradition, is how Moshe Rabbeinu received all these details of how to understand the written Torah, and how to take those rules and how they really have much more than we seem to think. And that is our specific chelek, our specific portion that is unique to us, that no other people have, and it's not, we're not even supposed to give it to other people. That is really our unique place with the Torah. So with that, this is Masai Korin Shema B'Arvin, that is the beginning of Brachos. That this Masechet Brachos is the beginning of the Torah Shebaal Peh. It's Chazal, the sages, chose a certain order and a certain structure to how this Torah Shebaal Peh would go, and the beginning of it is Masechet Brachot. And it's really by no coincidence why, nothing is by coincidence, and certainly not the order of how the Torah Shebaal Peh, how the Chazal, our wise sages, how they decided to set the Torah Shebaal Peh. They surely had very deep intentions in what they were doing. So, really, it's something that could be spoken about at a very great length. But one idea why we start here with Masechet Brachot. Why is this the beginning of the whole oral Torah, which is going to form the whole life of a Jew? Why did it start dafka with this specific area? Is that it says, and there's a pasuk that says, Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem, that the beginning of wisdom is Yiras Hashem, is the fear of God. So, the whole Torah is considered wisdom. The whole Torah is the wisdom of the Jewish people. The whole oral Torah, it's the wisdom of the Jews. But what we need to know is before the introduction to that wisdom is Yiras Hashem, is the fear of God, of Hashem. So without fear of Hashem, this is what separates the Torah from a lot of other wisdoms in the world, is that it's not just an intellectual study alone, that the foundation and the introduction to learning the Torah and the wisdom of the Torah and the doorway to getting into the wisdom of the Torah is through having the fear of Hashem, Yiras Hashem. So that is one reason when it's given. Why is Brachot spoken why is that given as the first tractate in the oral Torah? Because the whole idea of a bracha, of saying a blessing, is specifically that, is to recognize that there's more. We can't just take things in the world, that everything we do, before we do a mitzvah and before we eat and before we do a lot of things, we have to say a bracha, we have to say a blessing, because we have to recognize who it is who is giving us what it is that we have, or for whom we are really doing this mitzvah for what purpose, who is it that we're talking to. And we say, blessed are you, Baruch atah, we speak first. We speak directly to Hashem. Blessed are you. We have a personal connection with Hashem every time we eat something, every time we do a mitzvah. And that is the concept of having fear of Hashem. Fear not is the way we normally think about it, as being terrified or, afraid of someone breaking into your house, but a fear, an appreciation, and an awe for the greatness of Hashem. And that is what brachot really do. That what brachot infuse into the life of every Jew, is that level of appreciation of Hashem. And that's one reason that brachot, that is the beginning of the chachma of the Torah, because without that realization, without knowing that, then we really won't be able to really get into the Torah, really appreciate the wisdom of the Torah. We won't be in tune with what the Torah wants from us, and if we don't have that Yiras Hashem, that appreciation, that acknowledgement of the Creator of the world, who gives us everything we have, and to whom we are hoping to do whatever we do to do for His sake.